Hey guys, this is going to be my September wrap-up and October TBR, so I'll be going through the books that I read in September, telling you really quickly what I kind of thought about them and what rating I gave them on Goodreads, and then I'm going to go through the books that I plan to read in October. So I read 6 books in September, which is much better than I thought I was going to get. I didn't read all the books on my TBR though, because I ended up getting a book for review that I needed to read, or 2 books for review, I think, maybe 3. So I ended up reading those, and then one of the 6 books is a book that I had to read for school. So I think there was 1 book from my TBR that I didn't end up reading, I think. And I only have 2 of the books that I read this month here with me, because the rest have been taken home already, so I don't have them here at school. But the first book that I read this month was So Yesterday by Scott Westerfeld, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. His Uglies trilogy is some of my favorite books, but I was just kind of iffy on So Yesterday for a number of reasons. It's like focused on consumer culture, which is really interesting to me, but I didn't think it explored it enough in a lot of ways, and I didn't like how the branding of things was handled, but I went into detail with that in my review, so that's there if you want to look at it. And then I read What Happened to Goodbye by Sarah Dessen, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Sarah Dessen is one of my favorite writers. She's the first YA author who I read, and I at one point had read all of her books, and now she's had 2 come out and is getting ready to have a 3rd come out. And I haven't read either of those 2, and I've had it, What Happened to Goodbye, for forever and needed to read it, and I finally did, and I really, really loved it. And like I talked about in my review for that, the love interest in this one, his name is Dave, and he didn't take the place of my favorite Sarah Dessen romantic lead, but he came close. And then I also read Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, which I have with me because I read it for my American Modernism class, but I forgot to get it, so I don't have it right now to hold up or anything, but I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Paradise Rules by Jimmy Gleacher, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Did not like it either. It deals with child molestation and things like that. The main character has been molested by his godmother, and which is definitely off-putting for some people, but I think it's something really difficult to kind of handle, and writing wise, and I just don't think that it was really pulled off, and I didn't like any of the characters in the book, and sometimes I hate characters, but also am intrigued by them enough that I still like the book, and that didn't happen this time, so I was kind of iffy on it. And then I read Frozen by Melissa De La Cruz, and there was another author too, hold on, I have to load it, and Michael Johnston. I got this for review from NetGalley because I've heard a lot about Melissa De La Cruz's other series. I think it's the Blue Blood series or something that's vampires, and I've heard so much about it and so many people who love it, so I've been kind of thinking about reading that for a while, and then I saw this and I was okay, well, I'll check that out. And it's co-written by another author, so I'm not really going to use this to judge her other series because I don't know what kind of influence the other author had, but it just did not. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, which seemed to be popular this month. I did start to like it more towards the end, but I didn't really like the world building. It's a dystopian and apocalyptic and some fantasy in there too. It has a very corrupt government, and the Earth's gone into another ice age, and the country has fallen apart, and but in addition to that, you have people who have started being born with powers, so you have this fantasy element, which could have been done really well, but I wasn't a huge fan of how it was done. A lot for the first half of the book. It's really confusing about how this is actually happening and what's going on. That does get a bit better as you adjust, but in the end, I didn't think it was bad, but I don't think I enjoyed it enough to continue on with the series. And then the last book that I read this month is the one that I have with me, and it's On the Road to Freedom by Charles E. Cobb, or Charles Cobb Jr. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I've had this for a while. I got this at the Civil Rights Memorial like 2 years ago or something like that. And it goes like each chapter is a state, and like a southern state, and it goes through different cities and tells you like important places from the civil rights movement. But it's more a history book than anything. It tells the history of those places, and I really love history, so I really enjoyed that. Like, I think this is a great book just if you're interested in history, like even if you're not like planning a trip or anything. Although I would love to go everywhere in this book, and I actually just posted my review of this to my blog earlier today, so that's up now. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the books that I'm planning to read in October. I have 2 books for school, one of which I'm already reading, 2 books that I'm reading that aren't school books, and then I'm going to show 3 other books. Yeah, so it's going to be a pretty light month though, because I've already started 3 of these books, and the 3 books that I have other than the ones I'm already reading are short, like really short. So because midterms are this month or next week, actually, I'm already feeling stressed about that, and so I want to try and keep everything kind of light, although they're not really light subject books. But anyway, the first book that I'm already reading for school, because we're going to start with school books, is Shadow Shapes by Elizabeth Shepley Sargent. This is for my American Modernism class. This book is out of print, but my professor got permission from the author's estate or descendants or whatever to do this for us, so it has like distributed for the use of students in our class and everything on it. My professor is currently working on a critical edition of the book in order to get it back into print, which I think is really cool. But it's the author was a correspondent for a magazine during World War I in France, and she had a deal to write a book on France's involvement in the war, and then she ended up getting injured while touring a battlefield towards the very end of the war, like 3 weeks before Armistice, I think. And so she ended up in the hospital in Paris while the peace talks were going on, and so she starts writing about her experience in the hospital while the peace talks are going on, and she's like really well connected to these people who know what's happening with the peace talks, so she's writing about what she learns, and also includes flashbacks to her own like experiences being in France during the war, but not directly being involved in the war. And it's been really interesting so far. I just think it's really cool that it's like less well known. I think that makes it kind of interesting. Then for my American literature class, we are going to start reading The Holder of the World by Bharati Mukherjee. I'm probably not saying that right. I have no idea what this is about. It's actually, our American literature class is like split into 2 parts, and this is part 1, so it's earlier American literature, and this was written in the 90s. So it's supposed to be like a supplemental thing, like we're reading all these texts from earlier in American literature, but she wants us to read this because I think it takes place in earlier American history, so it's supposed to give us like historical context or something. But we haven't actually, it says the main character was born in 1670 on the back, but we haven't actually started reading it yet, so I can't tell you anything else about it. And then, we're not reading any novels in my Brit Lit class, so these are the only 2 school books that I'm going to be reading this semester that aren't like textbooks. Then for non-school books this month, I'm currently reading 2 books. They're on my Kindle. They're review books, one of which I only have the epilogue left, which is pretty much nothing at all. So I'm definitely going to finish it tonight. So the vast majority of it will have been read in September, but I'm actually participating in a release day blitz for that book on my blog. So that's going to happen on October 15th. Yeah. And then my review will go up on October 17th. So be looking out for both of those. It's a series and by C.A. Gray, and this is the third book called Impossible, and I've reviewed the first two here on my channel, but this one's going to go on my blog as part of like a larger thing with other bloggers. So I'm really excited about that, really enjoying it so far. This is the one, my first two reviews, I compared them to Harry Potter. Still really feeling the Harry Potter connections in here, so I'm really enjoying it. I guess I can say I really enjoyed it since I only have an epilogue. But yeah, and then the other book I'm reading I got from Story Cartel in exchange for a review, and it's called Thorny. I can't remember the author's name, and the author's name is not on the Kindle file that I was given. But it's a Beauty and the Beast adaptation, which I'm always really curious about, because the Beauty and the Beast can be great when it's pulled off, but I feel like it's something really hard to pull off, because you have to make the Beast like a terrible person, but yet make him like sympathetic, and then you have the whole thing like him being a beast but her still falling for him, and it just can sometimes be kind of complicated to pull off. And when I first started reading this version, I was kind of like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this at first, but I've really gotten into it, and it's like really, I really, so far, I'm only about halfway done, so who knows how I'll feel at the end. But so far, I really think that the author is pulling it off. Okay, so then we have 3 more books. This was the book that was in my TBR last month I didn't get to, but it's Christian Foundations by Kathleen Fisher and Thomas Hart. I talked about this in my last review. This is a textbook from my theology class that I took 2 years ago, and sometimes after a class I decide to keep a textbook because I want to look at it more than we did in class. And for some reason I kept this. So at the time I must have decided that keeping it to read was worth it for some reason. But I hated my theology class. It was terrible. And I don't know why I kept this, but I figured there must have been a reason, and maybe if I read it I'll remember why. It has big font, so at least there's that. I don't think it'd take that long to read because it's not that big, and like I said, huge print. So I may only end up reading part of this and then deciding that it's definitely not worth it. I mean, I don't know why I kept it, but yeah. And then same thing with this one. This one is so tiny, but it's Conscious and Catholic Faith, Love and Fidelity by Anthony Marinelli. And same thing, I kept it from my theology class, and I don't know why. I think the main reason I kept this is because it's so small, and I don't think that I actually read it for my theology class. If there was any one class in the history of ever that I was supposed to do reading for and didn't do reading for, theology would probably be it. Which is why I don't know why I kept the books. But and I think I've decided at the end of the class that this was really short and I paid for the book, so I should read. I think that I'm almost positive that that was my reasoning. Like, I paid for these books and then didn't read them in class, so I need to keep them and read them to justify having spent money for them. Almost positive that that is why. And there's a part of me that still wants to do that because I would like to think that I didn't waste my money on them, but then I'll probably end up selling them if I can on Amazon or something after this. But I haven't, like, I'm trying not to buy from Amazon anymore, so I'd have to find somewhere else to sell them. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. The other one, also really short. I said that this would be like that, but it's Our Franciscan Heritage, a Tradition, which is put out by my school. My school is a Franciscan University, and we got these for free in our freshman class. So a long time ago, and we have like a freshman class when you come to my school that like introduces you to college and the school and things like that, like teaches you like how to study kind of, and it can pretty much be anything based on what instructor you have and what they want to go over, but everyone, like all the freshmen get these, or at least they did when I was a freshman, and this is another one of those things that I just stuck around like I should probably read this at some point, and I haven't yet, but it's literally almost nothing. Like, it has the school's mission statement and talks about different parts of campus, and then the history of the nuns that are like support the school. They started the school. I'm not entirely sure what their official role is now, but talks about St. Francis of Assisi because we're Franciscan, and just that's pretty much it. So I mean, yeah, I think it's one of those things that I was just given it, so I thought I should read it, and then haven't. But I want a light month this month, so I'm making that my goal. Apparently I'm going to be really focused on, well, I was gonna say Catholicism, but this isn't specifically Catholic, so yeah, I don't know. I may end up skipping these entirely, depending. I think it's gonna be highly dependent on my mood, whether I can make it through these or not. I mean, I can definitely make it through this, but I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna go, and we'll see if I actually read these this month or if I read something else entirely, but I will see you guys later. Bye.